Let's talk about the results. Let's do some data here. These are your portions of the claim. I have some averages. So your claim was a 3-point score. Average of 2.38. Accuracy, average of 1.96. Support, average of 3.50. Quotation, average of 3.80. Integration, average of 1.5. And mugs, average of 2.90. So obviously you folks have no problem on accuracy. You understand the novel. So this one, do not worry. That one's all good. Okay, sorry about that pause. Back on track. So we don't have to worry about the accuracy. You guys are doing fine on that. Quotation integration, I think you're using the quotation fine. You understand how that quotation fits into whatever discussion that you're having. Your support's not bad. Students lost support here when they weren't really casting their net wider into the entire essay. But as you can see, that wasn't a gigantic problem. I shouldn't see this. I shouldn't see a 2.3 on a 3-point for the analytical claim because that is a simple formula to follow. In a separate piece, John Knowles uses this to do this. This is where you do not end your paragraphs with a reference back to the claim. And 1.5 is a bit too low on that for my comfort level. And that's a huge problem. Okay, so you haven't mastered the passive voice? I understand. You're having some difficulties with some of the words, like thing? Okay, I understand. That's fine. But the number of spelling errors, punctuation errors that I saw, capitalization errors, it's pretty inexcusable for sophomores, especially honor sophomores, but any sophomores, that would be pretty inexcusable. So if you are losing massive points on mugs, you must do something about it. I want you to take a look at your essay, take a look at your score, and imagine you had scored perfectly on mugs. That'll give you a good indication of the quality of your writing and thinking. And then you understand where you are as a writer. But it's the attention to detail, really, that is causing you the problem with those mugs lost points. So that's what needs to be addressed, absolutely. And if you don't understand how to fix those errors, that's what writers' workshops are for. That's what I am for. Please ask me. But you can see that not only do I expect you to do this when you are at home working on a computer, but I also expect you to do this in an in-class essay environment. And my standards were pretty high. You lost a point for every individual error. Individual error means spelling would be considered one error. So if you misspelled once or you misspelled 15 times in the essay, doesn't matter, you lost 1 point. Use of a contraction. You use 1, you lost a point. You use 7, you lost a point. So that's how I calculated. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. So Ryan, start us off with questions. No, not taking off for verb choice because I have not felt that you folks have had enough time with it. I use the list that's online when addressing the grading of that. Ask further questions. What else do you want to know? Melissa?
In my claim, I said through the novel, a separate piece, John Knowles uses the character Beaver in the woods to symbolize adulthood. Should I have said, like, uses the woods to symbolize adulthood?
Yeah, you've got leper as a character and then the woods, which is a symbol, and you're mixing the device there. I'm not quite sure which device you're talking about, so it's unclear there.
So should I have, like, said, like, uses the woods to symbolize?
Yes.
Like, use, like, a beaver as, like...
As a supporting example, yes, correct. Mitch?
Could you help me fix my claim? It was a separate piece, Knowles uses Finney's comment about making Gene jump from the tree to show that Finney has some sort of influence over him.
Sure. That was pretty long. Say it again, Mitch.
In a separate piece, Knowles uses Finney's comment about making Jean jump from the tree to show that Finney has some sort of influence over Jean.
Your effect is fine, but your device is not a device. Remember literary devices from freshman year, junior high. Literary devices are points like characterization, symbol, setting, imagery, those sorts of things. So my biggest problem, and I believe I even pointed to it, saying a quotation is not a device. A quotation is useful as support, but you need a device that is a discrete and specific literary device. So what would you place in there? What's the quotation again? Which one were you assigned?
Oh, yes, the one on page 18 about finishing.
Okay. Knowles uses something about Finney's events of rule breaking. We're talking about plot events. Multiple scenes of Finney's rule breaking. We need to condense that into one idea. So, in a separate piece, Knowles writes several moments of rule breaking initiated by Finney that demonstrate the control Finney has over Jean. Does that make sense? And now you've got one tree issue, you've got going to the beach issue, you've got a number of different issues that can cast you over a few different chapters to support that one.
I mean, I used the rest of the essay, I integrated the comment in more than I should have.
Mitch, my biggest problem with your essay was that it was not so much an analytical essay as it was a quotation analysis. You took that quotation and you sucked every last bit of meaning out of it. You looked at sentences, and if I gave you a quotation analysis, Mitch, that would have been one of the best papers I could hope for. But the problem was the quotation was only supposed to be used as support. What I was trying to do with everybody was not tell you what to write. I didn't want to tell you what to write. I didn't want to tell you what your claim was. I wanted you to decide, you know what, I'm going to talk about this with a separate piece, and I'm going to use this as support. But I think, Mitch, you took it that I was telling you, focus on this and only this, and tell me about this quotation. So that was the problem. And, miscommunication there, perhaps you not understanding the directions fully, thinking that I was going somewhere where I wasn't going, me not expressing myself very clearly to you. But like I said, if this were a quotation analysis and all you had to do was analyze that quotation, you were spot on. And you'll have to do that sometime in this class. So, other questions? Sydney?
I just have a problem with using there.
You have a problem with using there?
Yeah, and there I said, in an idealistic world, that is how a game would be. Everyone plays and there are no losers.
And there are no losers, then what, Sydney, if you know that you have a problem with it, here's a strategy for in-class essay writing. First of all, write in pencil. Secondly, skip lines. And then, and don't worry, I didn't require you to skip lines, but you should skip lines for yourself. And then what you do is you leave a little bit of time at the end of the class period, go back through, look for every there. Don't worry about it while you're writing, just write. Then look at every there. And then take that sentence, erase, and try to write the exact same idea with no there. In that one, you would say no one loses. Don't say there are no losers, say no one loses. You see? So I believe, Sydney, that if you are able to take a look at that and think about it for a moment, you'll probably see a solution to it. But pencil, double space, budget some time, look for there, and that means that you personally know it's a problem for you, so it's worth spending the time. Madison.
I'm revising my sentence and I use passive voices.
Yes.
It was originally Jean, Brinker, and Lepper are all blinded by army propaganda at some point in the novel.
Yes.
Does it make sense to change it to, at some point in the novel, army propaganda blinds Jean, Brinker, and Lepper?
Yes, because Madison, that's your classic example of passive voice where you have subject, passive verb, and then a by phrase. And then that's our first revision of the flip. What you just did was you took army propaganda out of the by phrase and you made it your subject. So yeah, that's the by phrase passive voice is pretty easy to revise. Just flip that around. Other questions? Yes, Nakia.
What is an analytical claim format?
Analytical claim format is that four-part format where we have the title of the work, the author, the device that the author is using, and the effect that that usage has. So in a separate piece, John Knowles uses imagery of the river to develop contrasting moods. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So if I remember correctly, your first few sentences were basically summarizing what happens in the novel. But I don't need you summarizing. I need you talking about what Knowles is doing in the novel. Okay? Chris?
I put the title in quotes. Is that the point I missed? Is that a
Probably,
point?
yeah. Titles of longer works, novels, must be underlined, and if you're typing, they must be italicized. Okay. Other questions?